The grace of God is sufficient for you all. My name is 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒆 and I'm a PPS Diamond by the grace of God. My testimony is going to be about academic breakthrough. People of God, allow me to take you through my academic journey from a very young age. From a very young age, I've always been a high-achieving student. I normally took straight A's, which made me gain the titles of being the best student in the class and the best student in the school as well. By the grace of God, for my PSLE in 2012, I managed to obtain grade A. Moving on to my junior school in 2013, I continued with performing well. I was privileged to be introduced to the 3G ministries in the very same year by my mother, who was residing in Gaborone at the time. As I was residing in Francistown at the time, I was only able to come to the church during school holidays. And it is during that time where I came to learn about the PPS initiative. I saw the testimonies of other youngsters who were testifying about the goodness of God in their academic lives. As well as the testimonies, I was inspired by the messages of the man of God, Prophet Cedric, who was talking about how we should sacrifice our present for the sake of our future, divorcing all the worldly pleasures such as social media, dating, entertaining, secular music, as well as worldly friends, and giving our academics our all. I continued with maintaining a good character and discipline, which were reinforced by the teachings of the man of God. Around the same time, I was privileged to also attend one of the meetings where the man of God, Prophet Cedric, told us that we should have dreams, and those dreams should act as an engine towards us excelling in our academics. It is after this meeting where I realized that I've been performing well as a student all this time, but I didn't have an internal drive, or rather a dream that was driving me towards excelling in my academics. From that point onwards, I decided that I didn't just want to be a good student, I wanted to be counted as one of the best students in the country, as well as gain the Top Achiever Scholarship. Mind you, at the time I was 13 and still in junior school. Around the same time also, my aunt used to watch Emmanuel TV all the time. I came to learn about this young girl called Yinka, who was sponsored by the great man of God, Prophet TB Joshua, to study electronic engineering in University of Oxford in UK. Each and every time her testimony came up on the screen, my eyes will be glued on the screen and I would see myself in her. I believed that God was going to do the same thing in me, was going to make me achieve the dream that I had of being a top achiever, as well as studying abroad, just like the young girl that I saw in the TV. So continuing with my journey as a junior school student, with that dream in my heart of being a top achiever and also being able to study abroad, I continued exercising the teachings that the man of God, Prophet Cedric, had taught us during the PPS meetings, as well as maintaining the good character and the discipline, keeping in mind that my genuine willingness as a student plus God's ability is going to yield excellence. When I wrote my exams in 2015, my junior school exams in 2015, believing that God was going to realize my dream of being a top achiever, I managed to obtain a grade A, people of God. The grade A was 57 points out of 63 points in total. Hence, I didn't achieve my dream of being a top achiever. Moving on to senior school with some slight disappointment that I hadn't realized my dream of being a top achiever. I believed that God is going to do more in me, like at God's time, at God's own designated time, the dream was going to be achieved. I continued exercising the same teachings that the man of God had taught us during the PPS meetings, as well as exerting my all when it comes to my academics, working hard as if it all depended on me, and praying hard as if it all depended on God. Fast forward to my BGCSE exams in 2017, every single time before I wrote the exams, I would pray to God that my dream of being a top achiever would be realized by the grace of God. I also ministered the living water that my mother had acquired from the church each and every single time before I wrote my exams. People of God, when the BGCSE results were released in 2018, by the grace of God, God performed exceedingly abundantly above what I had wished for. He gave me more than just 6 A stars, people of God. For the BGCSE exams, I attained 48 points in total. The 48 points comprised of 8 A stars and 1 B. The B was in Setswana. With those grades, people of God, I was eligible to register to be awarded the Top Achiever Scholarship. Mind you, because of the grades that I had attained, I was also the 3rd best student in the country for that year out of the 36,000 students who had sat for the exams in that year. In one of the subjects, statistics, which I was doing for that year, I was one of the only 2 students in the whole country of Botswana who had attained an A star, people of God.
Let us bless Master Jesus with our hands.
At God's time, indeed, everything was beautiful. Now that I had attained the Top Achiever Scholarship, I was eligible to enroll for a 2-year A-level program in one of the prestigious schools in the country, Marapula, from June 2018 till June 2020, where I was doing an A-levels program, which were abridged before I go outside to study abroad, people of God.
As you were moving from one level to another of education, what were the challenges you encountered and how did you overcome them?
In those moments, people of God, there were times where I felt tempted to indulge in other worldly pleasures that my peers were indulging in, like drinking, dating, and all that. But the words of the man of God will echo at the back of my mind, or at the back of my head all the time, people of God. Keeping in mind that the man of God in one of his messages said that success without character is not regarded as success at all. For what good was it going to be now that I attained the Top Achiever Scholarship for me to now forsake God and go to the worldly desires? So I hang on to the words of the man of God, people of God, and now that I was living in the dream of being a top achiever, I decided it was now time to set another dream. For my A-levels, I was doing 4 subjects, which were sciences, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and physics. My love for pursuing a science-based career grew because of that. And at that point also, I grew the love of studying God's precious design, that is the human body. With those 2 factors, coupled with my long-standing desire of wanting to pursue a career that has a direct impact on people's lives, as well as changing the healthcare system in the country, I decided I wanted to pursue medicine as a career. So I continued working hard throughout my 2 years of A-levels, keeping in mind that I want to study medicine abroad, people of God. For my first year of A-levels, God didn't disappoint me as I kept on holding to his promises, people of God. For my first year, I managed to attain 3 A's and 1 B, with an A being the highest grade attainable for that level, people of God. Now, moving on to my second year of A-levels, which was in 2020, because of the COVID-19 predicament, we weren't able to write our final exams. We were rather given predicted grades based on our academic performance throughout the whole year. And with that, I had attained 2 A stars and 1 A, people of God. With those grades that I had attained by the grace of God, I managed to gain admission into one of the universities abroad to study medicine for 5 years. That was from September 2020 till May 2025, where I was doing medicine in UCD, University College Dublin, which was in Ireland, people of God. Before leaving the country that year in 2020, I was privileged to have a one-on-one meeting with the man of God who gave me words of counsel and advice as to how I should continue with the good character and maintaining the same level of discipline and including God in my studies going forward. So now that I went abroad in 2020, I was now miles and miles away from my family. I was exposed to a new level of rather worldly desires, of people indulging in worldly desires, and I had more freedom as well. With this stage, every single time I felt tempted as well, just like during my A-levels, to indulge in worldly pleasures such as dating. And mind you, the desires intensified as I was now miles and miles away from my family. Every time I felt like those temptations were getting hold of me, I went back to the messages of the man of God. I would usually be on YouTube at around 1 a.m. searching the PPS meetings that the man of God had that were recorded from previous years, where the man of God was relaying messages as to how we should carry ourselves as students. With those messages, people of God, I was able to maintain the same level of discipline and the same level of consistency and working hard, as well as including God in my studies, that I had when I was back home.
With that level of discipline and commitment and focus towards your academics, how was your reaction, the reaction of your peers? How were they treating you, looking at the fact that you were ever focused on your academics?
The kind of behavior they showed to me, like they were regarding me as different. They would usually ask me, why am I behaving like an old person? Like, why am I not indulging in like worldly pleasures? Why am I treating myself like a 60-year-old or so? But in the back of my mind, I would know that I'm sacrificing my present for the sake of my future. I'm doing this for my future, people of God.
Those hands can be better and better for Master Jesus.
And during that time, as a university student, as a medical student, there were times where I felt like an imposter. I had imposter syndrome. I would feel like I'm not worthy enough or smart enough to be in the room. But like, it is in those moments where I recall the goodness of God, and I would recall all the moments that God has got me through, and knowing that God didn't bring me this far for only me to now quit and disappoint him, people of God. Now, moving on with my university journey, I continued with maintaining the same level of discipline and character. My module grades throughout my 5-year journey as a university student were just alternating between A's and B's. And if I say I had failed an exam, it'll be a C, but also that will be a rare occurrence, people of God. In September 2022, I also came to give a testimony about the goodness of God in my academic life. It was in one of the special Sunday services, the service of the open gates. After that testimony, people of God, when I went back to Ireland, I was in my first semester of third year, people of God. And for that semester alone, I managed to attain a GPA of 3.84 out of 4.2. That was a first class honors. I'm saying this, people of God, to reinforce what the man of God always says when he says giving testimonies is for our own benefit as individuals. As when you are given the testimony, God is going to bless you even more and open even more doors for you as an individual, people of God. So now moving on to my final year of university, people of God. Every single time throughout my journey as a student, every single time before my clinical exams, I would also write to God the module grade that I want God to give me. And being the God of Ephesians 6:20, the God who gives exceedingly abundantly above all we could ever imagine, he always exceeded my expectations, people of God. Allow me to take you through one of the clinical exams where I really saw God's hand over my life. So in this, we had this one module during our clinical years, obstetrics and gynecology, which focused on women's health and pregnancy issues as well. This was the module that is known to be one of the hardest modules in medical school, and one which is known for like many students having to retake or rather resit an exam for that module. I remember weeks before we wrote exams, we had clinical oral exams for that module. I wrote to God in my prayer list that I wanted to attain a grade B for that module. In my heart, I knew that I was just placing a higher grade. Like in my heart, I just wanted to get an average grade. I just wanted to like pass the exam and not having to retake the module. But I just wrote a B, people of God, in my prayer list. So fast forward to the day I was supposed to have the 2 oral exams for this obstetrics and gynecology module. I had 2 consultants, or rather 2 specialists, who were assessing me based on my ability to assess a patient in the clinical wards. And after that exam, people of God, one of the consultants actually pulled me over to the side and told me that I should consider specializing in obstetrics and gynecology, and that I was so good in my exam, people of God. Mind you, when the results for that very module were released, people of God, I had attained an A+, which was the highest grade attainable. God had exceeded my expectations of just a B. So a month prior to me sitting my final exams for medical school, I was privileged by the grace of God to get a conditional offer to commence work as a junior doctor in UK. I was never tempted to relax, people of God, because the finish line was closer. How could I relax when I knew that I was about to achieve the dream, something that I've longed for, rather, for so long, people of God? So I just kept including God in my academics. For my final exams, a month prior to sitting for my final exams, there were going to be oral exams, or rather, clinical exams, where we are going to be given patients in the ward for us to assess them based on our clinical knowledge that we had acquired as medical students so far. So a month prior to that, as an act of faith, I had the watchman sitting by my bedside, and I just put 2 pens that I knew I was going to use for the exam just on top of the watchman, and I also hang my stethoscope each and every single time when I come from the hospital, from my hospital placements. I would also hang the stethoscope just by the corner of the watchman as an act of faith, believing that God shall see me through. And God did see me through, people of God. As for my final exams in medical school, I attained a grade B, people of God. My final GPA was 3.37 over 4.2, which landed me on an upper second class honors, people of God. By the grace of God, I was able to graduate with a degree in medicine, Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery, and a Bachelor of Obstetrics less than a month ago on the 29th of May, 2025, people of God. Okay, so the first document on the board is my statement of results, BGCSE statement of results. I had attained 48 points, and the 48 points comprised of 8 A stars and 1 B, people of God. Now moving on to my AS results, I had attained 3 A's and 1 B by the grace of God. As I had now successfully completed the A-levels program, which was a bridge for me to study abroad, I received a financial guarantee letter from DTF. It reads, "This letter serves to confirm that 𝒂𝒊𝒍𝒊𝒏𝒆 will be fully funded by the Botswana government to pursue her intended program at University College Dublin, Ireland." And then this is my academic transcript. The semester that I was talking about after I had given a testimony testifying about the goodness of God in my academics, I attained 1, 2, 3 A's in that semester and 2 B's, which landed me on a GPA of 3.84 over 4.2, a first class honors. And then also for my final academic transcript, this is my name, 𝒂𝒊𝒍𝒊𝒏𝒆. This is to certify that the above student registered for a program of study leading to the Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery, Bachelor of Obstetrics. And then this is my professional completion grade, my final ever medical school exam. I had a B-. Thank you, Jesus. And then the other document I have here is a copy of my degree. This is to certify that the honors degree of Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery, and Bachelor of Obstetrics were conferred on 𝒂𝒊𝒍𝒊𝒏𝒆 at University College Dublin. And then this is my offer letter that I received. I'm going to be commencing work in Sheffield, people of God. Dear Dr. 𝒂𝒊𝒍𝒊𝒏𝒆, appointment of Foundation Trainee Year 1.
Louder for the miracle working God.
And this is a photo of me and my parents at the Botswana Examination Council Excellence Awards, where I received awards for being the 3rd best student in the country for the exams in 2017. This photo here, I took it during our white coat ceremony. So the white coat ceremony is usually done halfway through our degree to mark our transition from like the preclinical stage of the medicine degree to the clinical stage of the medicine degree, where we get to interact with patients on a daily basis and get to learn from the patients as well as the doctors in the team. And then the last photo here is me in my graduation gown. I was holding my degree here on the 29th of May, 2025 in UCD. I'd like to take this moment to thank God for planting this dream of me studying abroad in my heart. People of God.
Let us put our hands together. Let us join to celebrate with her.
So I'd like to take this moment to thank God for planting this dream in my heart of being a top achiever, as well as planting me in a ministry that will help me maintain the blessing that He has bestowed upon me, people of God. I would also like to take this moment to thank the man of God, Prophet Cedric, for the God-driven PPS initiative. I believe that we are living witnesses, and we've seen the many dreams that have been achieved through this PPS initiative, people of God. Hope has been restored. The lives of hundreds, if not thousands of students have been touched through this PPS initiative. And for that, I'd just like to take this moment to thank the man of God, Prophet Cedric, for his wise words of counsel, people of God. Now, moving on to my final words of advice, specifically to the PPS students, I would just like to say you should include God in your studies, borrowing from the divine equation that the man of God, Prophet Cedric, gave us during one of his PPS meetings, in which he said, genuine willingness plus God's ability is equals to excellence. You can't do it all on your own, and you can't pray to God without doing any work as well. You have to use the two in conjunction, genuine willingness and God's ability. Work hard as if it all depends on you, and pray hard as if it all depends on God. With the two used in conjunction, excellence is guaranteed. Thank you, Jesus.